Western Oregon. This is NBC 16 News at 5:30.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Jacqueline Mazer. While the Pac-12 officially postponed the 2020 fall sports season, the league announced it will not hold any athletic competitions until January 1st at the earliest. NBC 16 sports director Brandon Cameraman joins us live from his home with more on how the conference came to this conclusion. Brandon.
Jacqueline, there are so many ripple effects to the loss of a college football season, not to mention the loss of volleyball, soccer, cross country, and other fall sports. But the Pac-12 said from the beginning it would follow the science on this, and specifically the recommendations of its medical advisory board, which is led by Oregon State Senior AD for Sports Medicine, Dr. Doug Aukerman, who had this to say about why they just couldn't justify sports this fall.
Our student athletes are students, and they're going to go to the grocery store. They're going to go to restaurants. They're going to interact with the community, and we want them to. It's not appropriate to think that we can bubble them and isolate them, and therefore we felt that it was just very, very difficult to try and do this in a way that we felt was safe enough for our student athletes that we would support.
In a statement, Oregon State football coach Jonathan Smith said, "We need to feel confident it's safe to play for all involved, and we are not there yet." Oregon Athletic Director Rob Mullins said, "Unfortunately, the uncertainty surrounding COVID-19 precludes us from moving forward with contact at this time." And it's important to note, though, the postponement means no competition until January 1st. That means not just fall sports, but winter sports are impacted as well, like basketball, which would start before January 1st. Everyone involved is, of course, hoping things are better, that they can start playing by the new year, but that's about 4.5 months from now, and it was about 4.5 months ago that this all shut down. We didn't expect this then. We'll see how things are by January 1st. Live from home, Brandon Cameraman, let's go back to you.
All right, thanks for that report, Brandon. Well, a follow-up tonight on the proposal to shut down the Shutter Creek Correctional Facility in North Bend. During the second special session of the Oregon legislature held yesterday in Salem, legislators decided to take Shutter Creek off the list of facilities to be shut down. State Senator Arnie Roeblant says discussions, which led to keeping it open, were centered around the economic impact. Things like employees moving and selling houses in an economy already in the red.
Economically strapped places like Coos Bay need to be very carefully thought about when we're going about making these kinds of cuts. And that a budget is not just about money. It is a statement about what is important from the values of the state.
Roeblant tells us this isn't the end of discussions regarding the fate of Shutter Creek. He says the governor, as the executive branch, can still choose to close it. During the governor's news conference this afternoon, she expressed her disappointment in the legislature's decision.
I think, and the evidence shows, that we can be much smarter in our approach to tackling crime.
She says a prison bed costs about $39,000 to $50,000 a year, and the governor says those resources could be used elsewhere with a better return if invested in things like early childhood education. Over the next couple of weeks, Governor Kate Brown will be talking with the Department of Corrections to discuss the state's options. The Shutter Creek acting superintendent, meantime, declined to comment, saying they are waiting for more clarity on the situation. Oregon is relaxing some restrictions to allow rural schools to have in-person education. The state's Department of Education released new guidance today. The Oregon Department of Education says some schools in Tillamook County could open. Director Colt Gill says the state will now consider individual schools reopening instead of looking at the district as a whole. Gill says this will allow children to return to the classroom in Oregon's largest counties with low populations.
The metrics previously would show that an outbreak in one corner of that county would impact the schools across the entire county. With our new metrics, we're allowed to work with the local public health authority to look community by community. And where it is safe and there aren't current outbreaks, they could open to in-person instruction.
Gill says each school district will need to work with their local public health department. They must meet certain state and local benchmarks and cannot be in baseline, where Umatilla County is currently. The state also released new guidance for schools in case a student, teacher, or someone on campus contracts COVID-19. Meanwhile, the University of Oregon is still planning for in-person classes this fall. This week, the UO announced all students living in the dorms will be required to be tested for COVID-19. The UO says it will also conduct voluntary random spot testing of all students to keep track of community spread. Details of the plan are still being finalized. We'll keep you updated as we learn more. Oregon State University has announced plans for how classes will be handled this fall when students return. OSU Vice President Steve Clark says the main campus in Corvallis will be able to deliver more than 90% of its courses remotely. This step is in keeping with COVID-19 safety requirements. Courses will be offered in person, remotely, and on blended formats. OSU's plans for on-site teaching will be based on current health conditions and state COVID-19 guidelines. Now on to a look at COVID-19 cases in Oregon today. The Oregon Health Authority reports 302 new cases and 11 new deaths. Statewide, 368 people died and more than 21,700 people tested positive since the pandemic began. Today, Multnomah County reported the most new cases with 60. And some good news. OHA says the test positivity rate for last week was down. It was 5.4% compared to 6.3% a week earlier. But experts say they are still seeing community spread of the virus, with cases tied to wine tastings, block parties, and camping trips. Health experts warn the more you socialize and the closer you mix with people outside your household, the more likely the virus will spread. Oregon Governor Kate Brown is now named in yet another lawsuit. This time, 3 Christian schools are suing, calling Brown's executive orders unconstitutional. As it stands, faith-based gatherings of more than 25 people are prohibited. The 3 schools are seeking a court order to reopen later this month or in September with proper physical distancing, mask wearing, and other safety measures in place. Well, taking a live look tonight outside of Eugene, Chief Meteorologist Josh Cozart has our first look at weather.
Definitely another toasty day across western Oregon with those clear blue skies, plenty of sunshine, but not quite as hot as what we experienced yesterday. Managing to climb into the mid to upper 80s through the southern Willamette Valley, 90 for our high in Roseburg, and mid 60s out along the coast. But within the past 24 hours or so, we've definitely seen a cooling trend, at least through the valley locations, of close to about 10 degrees below where we were at this time yesterday. Radar and satellite, again, a quiet story across western Oregon with not a blip in sight. But for the rest of tonight, our temperatures will be falling back into the low 50s. We'll start the day off tomorrow with increased cloud coverage, and that will play a big role as far as our temperatures go. So the mid 80s today will transition to the mid 70s tomorrow, but a big warm up still around the corner. Those details in just a few.
All right, thanks, Josh. Well, Portland police arrested 9 people during protests outside the North Precinct overnight. An unlawful assembly was declared just after 11 p.m. when police say people started shining lights in officers' eyes and throwing things at them, including golf balls and potatoes. According to police, one officer was hit by a ball but wasn't seriously hurt. Portland police say they are still investigating possible explosives thrown at protesters over the weekend. Police say they haven't had any witnesses come forward. The incident happened Friday at Laurelhurst Park. Investigators say in-person witnesses are crucial to solving these investigations. They are urging anyone who saw what happened to call them. Oregon State Police is asking for the public's help in identifying the person or people involved in a shooting at several vehicles on I-5. The incidents were previously reported in Douglas and Josephine counties, but now Jackson County is included. Several vehicles were struck by bullets, but no injuries were reported. If you have any information on the shootings, call the Oregon State Police Sutherland Command Center. Coming up on your only local news at 5:30, more bicycles on the road and more road rage for drivers. What you need to know to stay safe. And when we're not on air, we continue to bring you the latest developments on our website, NBC16.com, and on our Facebook page at KMTR News. You can also download our KMTR News app on your phone for free. We'll be back.